When a woman wants to make a man truly miss her, it doesn't begin with games or silence. It begins with impact, the kind of impact that lingers in his spirit long after you've left the room. You see, men don't just miss women because they were around all the time or because they were sweet and available. A man misses the woman who made him feel something deeper, something unforgettable. Not because she tried too hard, but because her presence held power. That's the emotional imprint. And emotional imprints are what stay with a man longer than physical presence ever could. It's about how you made him feel about himself when he was around you. Did he feel seen, valued, respected? Did he feel more grounded, more alive, more like a man? Not because you catered to him, but because you carried a peace within yourself that invited him to rise. When a woman connects with herself deeply, she naturally knows how to connect with others in ways that are intentional, warm, and rare. That rarity is what sets her apart. That's what he starts to miss. Not the text, not the touch, but the feeling. Emotional imprints are created when you bring authenticity to the relationship. Not perfection, not pretending, but showing up fully as yourself, raw, beautiful, flawed, and still whole. When you listen with presence, when you speak from truth, when you laugh from the soul, those moments write themselves into a man's memory. Not just mentally, but emotionally. And emotion is the doorway to desire. Emotion is what whispers your name in his silence. A woman leaves a lasting emotional imprint when she's not afraid to be soft and strong at the same time. When she speaks her truth kindly, holds her standards without apology, and chooses herself without needing to push anyone away. That balance is powerful. It tells a man, I am enough on my own, but I still have space for you if you're ready to meet me here. That's unforgettable energy. That's not something a man forgets when he walks into a room full of options, because options don't touch the heart. Options don't echo in the soul. To make a man miss you like crazy, you don't have to shout louder. You just have to be more present in the moments you share. Give him the kind of emotional experience that no one else is offering, not through pressure, not through giving too much, but by being fully you. Laugh like you mean it. Speak truth like it matters. Move with grace like it's your birthright. And when you step back, he won't just miss you. He'll crave that emotional space you created. He'll chase the feeling of you, not just the form of you. That's the difference between a woman who's simply remembered and a woman who's deeply missed. The one who made an impact from the soul, the one who never tried to be anyone else, the one who didn't demand attention but still commanded it, just by showing up in her power. Because a man can find beauty anywhere, but emotional connection, emotional imprints, that's rare. That's what he'll hold on to. That's what he'll long for when he's laying in silence, surrounded by noise, and still thinking of you. And that's how you become unforgettable. Not by trying harder, but by showing up in truth and letting your energy do the rest. Mystery is not about playing games or hiding who you are. It's about not placing every piece of yourself on the table at once. It's about allowing a man the space to discover you slowly, layer by layer, moment by moment. When you make yourself fully accessible from the very beginning, when you text too often, explain too much, reveal too soon, you remove the space for curiosity. And curiosity is the seed of longing. If there's nothing left for him to wonder about, there's nothing left for him to chase. A woman who understands her worth knows that mystery is not about silence, it's about selective revelation. She doesn't rush to fill every gap in conversation. She isn't desperate to prove her value through constant presence. Instead, she lets her energy speak for her. She creates a rhythm that says, I'm here but not fully available unless you're showing up with depth. That tone invites a man to lean in, to want to know more, to earn his way into her world, not because she's playing hard to get, but because her life is full, meaningful, and rooted in purpose beyond him. When a woman cultivates her mystery, she doesn't shrink or withhold out of fear. She simply lets time and experience do the revealing. She lets moments unfold organically instead of rushing to make them something they're not. She understands that what's sacred doesn't scream, what's rare doesn't beg. She holds her emotions like a queen holding a crown, not to show off, but to protect the value of what she carries. That energy makes a man think. It makes him reflect, and most importantly, it makes him miss her presence when it's no longer there. Think about the women who linger in a man's heart the longest. They're rarely the ones who were always available. They're the ones who brought warmth without losing themselves. They gave enough to spark connection, but not so much that he felt entitled to them. They made room for him, but they never abandoned their own center to do so. That balance is what builds anticipation. It's what makes a man wonder, what is she thinking about today? What moves her? What does her silence mean? That wondering turns into longing, and that longing becomes missing. You see, when a woman lets her life speak for itself, when she's not over explaining, oversharing, or overgiving, she invites him into a journey. She becomes a book he can't put down, not because it's loud, but because every page reveals something beautiful, something profound. She doesn't need to chase because her energy draws people in. She doesn't need to manipulate because her authenticity is powerful enough to inspire pursuit. This kind of woman doesn't disappear to teach lessons. She simply doesn't overextend to keep someone interested. Her presence feels like peace, and her absence feels like something is missing. Not because she made it so, but because her energy was never desperate. It was intentional. It was aligned. And when she takes a step back, it doesn't feel like punishment. It feels like a man has been given the opportunity to realize her value without pressure. That's when he starts to miss her deeply. Not because she withheld love, but because she gave it with boundaries, with purpose, with a quiet kind of confidence. And in that confidence, in that sacred mystery, she plants the seed of longing, not as a strategy, but as a reflection of her wholeness. And when a man feels that kind of energy, real, grounded, present, yet elusive, he doesn't just remember her, he aches for her. Because she's not just a memory, she's a mystery that still lives in his spirit. Consistency is one of the most underrated yet powerful ways to make a man miss you deeply. In a world where people come and go, where attention is divided, and emotions are often fleeting, showing up consistently with your energy, your truth, and your presence sets you apart. It's not about being available 24/7 or catering to his every need. It's about being a woman who stands firm in who she is. A woman who doesn't shift depending on the mood, the moment, or the man. That kind of stability becomes magnetic in a man's life. When a woman is emotionally consistent, when her energy feels safe, her words feel real, and her presence feels grounded, she becomes a sanctuary. She becomes that rare space where a man doesn't have to question the foundation. In a society full of chaos and emotional games, consistency becomes a form of peace. And believe this, men remember peace. They crave it, especially when they experience inconsistency everywhere else. Your ability to be centered, no matter what's happening around you, creates a bond that lingers even in your absence. But let's be clear, consistency doesn't mean sacrificing your boundaries or constantly showing up even when it's not reciprocated. True consistency comes from alignment, not obligation. It's about being intentional with your energy. You don't have to be loud to be felt. You don't have to chase to be chosen. You simply show up with truth, with softness, and with strength again and again. That emotional reliability allows him to connect, to trust, and ultimately to long for your presence when you're gone. And here's where the magic happens. When you pair consistency with your own life rhythm, when you're present but not dependent, when you're available but not desperate, when you give but not at the cost of your own soul. That creates a powerful dynamic where man starts to associate your presence with emotional stability, emotional warmth, and real feminine energy. And when that presence is no longer around, when you're not calling, texting, or showing up like you used to, he feels the gap. Not because you disappeared, but because he grew used to the emotional nourishment you provided. You see, missing someone isn't about the absence itself, it's about the emotional mark they leave. And when a woman has consistently shown up in a way that feels whole, balanced, and emotionally present, she creates that mark. Even in silence, her energy echoes. Even when she's not in the room, her impact is because it wasn't about grand gestures. It wasn't about being the loudest voice or the most visible face. It was about the quiet, steady rhythm of love, respect, and presence. And when a man loses that, when that energy is no longer just a phone call away, he begins to realize the weight of what he had. He starts to reflect on the moments he took for granted. He thinks about the comfort of your voice, the steadiness of your responses, the reliability of your heart. And he begins to feel your absence not just as a physical distance, but as an emotional shift. That's what makes him miss you. That's what stays with him long after the noise fades. So never underestimate the power of consistency. It's not about being perfect. It's about being real. And when you show up with authenticity over time, you leave a trail behind you that no one else can replicate. That's how you become unforgettable. Mystery is not about playing games. It's about honoring your sacred space. It's about understanding that not everything about you needs to be revealed, explained, or made accessible right away. In a world that constantly pushes for oversharing and instant gratification, there's something powerful, something magnetic about a woman who leaves room for curiosity. A woman who understands that her depth cannot and should not be unraveled all at once becomes unforgettable. That's the kind of woman a man keeps thinking about long after the conversation ends. You see, when you leave a little room for mystery, you give a man space to wonder. And wondering creates emotional investment. It creates a quiet hunger. It stirs something in his spirit that keeps reaching for more. Not because you're withholding, but because you're layered. Because every time he connects with you, there's something more to learn, more to understand, more to discover. It's not about hiding. It's about unfolding gracefully, authentically, with intention. When a woman understands her worth, she doesn't feel the need to put her whole story on display. She doesn't rush to prove herself or earn love through exposure. Instead, she moves in alignment with her inner knowing. She listens more than she speaks. She reveals herself in moments that feel right, not forced. And when she does speak, her words carry weight. Her silence becomes just as powerful as her voice. That balance between openness and restraint keeps a man on his toes in the best way. Mystery also speaks to how you carry yourself. It's in your posture, your eyes, your energy. It's the way you walk into a room, not needing to be the loudest, but still commanding attention. It's in the way you choose what to share and what to keep sacred. Men feel that. They sense when a woman is rooted in herself. And when they can't quite figure you out, they stay engaged. Their mind doesn't wander away, it locks in. Because you're not predictable and you're not performing, you're simply present, layered, and unapologetically whole. Many women are taught to be completely transparent, to give every answer, explain every feeling, and lay every piece of their soul on the table. But true connection isn't built on overexposure. It's built on trust, time, and shared discovery. When you allow a man to earn access to your world, to step into deeper layers of your being, as the connection grows, he begins to value the experience of knowing you because it didn't come easily, because he had to listen, he had to be intentional, he had to show up with presence and patience. This isn't about manipulation. This is about self-respect. You are not a puzzle to be solved. You are a story to be experienced. And every chapter deserves its own space. When you understand that, you stop feeling the need to rush the process. You let your presence do the talking. You let your life speak for itself. And as he watches you move with quiet confidence, with boundaries and grace, he can't help but miss the way your mystery made him feel. Because mystery doesn't create distance, it creates depth. It allows love to breathe. It invites connection without smothering it. And most importantly, it shows that you value yourself enough to be revealed slowly in your time and with purpose. That is the kind of energy that lingers. That is the kind of woman a man doesn't forget. That is how you stay in his heart long after the moment is gone. Consistency might not seem glamorous, but it is the heartbeat of genuine connection. A woman who understands the value of showing up in the same spirit, with the same warmth, the same grounded energy day in and day out, becomes a rare and deeply appreciated presence in a man's life. In a world where people change faces depending on what they want or what the moment demands, being consistent is a language of emotional safety. And emotional safety is what makes a man not only miss you, but crave you. When you consistently treat him with kindness, respect, and emotional clarity, not just when it's convenient or when you're getting your way, but especially when it's hard, he sees you as someone different. You're not reactive, you're responsive, you're not up one moment and down the next. You're not disappearing when things feel uncomfortable. You are emotionally mature enough to hold space for yourself and him. And that stability becomes a refuge. It becomes a light he gravitates toward, especially in a world that can be so uncertain. A man doesn't just remember the way you look. He remembers the way you made him feel. Consistently. Did he feel seen? Heard? Did he feel like he could relax into the truth of who he was when he was with you? If so, then you left a mark. And the key is it didn't come from a single moment, it came from repetition. From the way you kept showing up in alignment with your words. You didn't build a connection on potential. You built it on presence. That kind of consistency builds trust. And trust is the foundation of missing someone in a meaningful way. It also means not sending mixed signals. Being consistent doesn't mean being perfect, but it does mean being intentional. It means your words and actions mirror each other. If you say you care, you show it. If you say you need space, you take it without guilt. You don't play hot and cold. You don't lean in one day and withdraw the next just to test his interest. You bring honesty, transparency, and emotional availability to the table, and you bring it consistently. This energy allows a man to open up when he feels secure in your presence, when he knows you're not a temporary spark but a steady flame. He lets his guard down. He starts to depend on your emotional rhythm, and without realizing it, he begins to associate your presence with comfort, inspiration, peace. And once that's established, your absence doesn't go unnoticed. He misses the calm you bring, the way you hold conversations with grace, the way you don't need to be dramatic to be memorable. You become the person who made him feel something real and who kept showing up even when it wasn't easy. A lot of people underestimate the power of being consistent because it isn't loud, but it's the quiet power that builds legacy. It's the way love grows roots. Consistency says, you can count on me to be who I say I am. That's rare, that's beautiful, and that's unforgettable. So if you want a man to miss you, not just momentarily, but deeply and continually, don't just aim to impress him once. Aim to be the woman who shows up again and again with the same genuine heart, the same soul level presence, the same truth. In the long run, it's not the grand gestures that'll miss. It's the reliability of your love, the safety of your energy, the steadiness of your soul. Mystery is not about manipulation or playing games. It's about maintaining a sense of individuality and depth that invites curiosity. When you create space between you and a man, you give him the chance to feel your absence, to realize your value, and to miss your presence. This doesn't mean being distant or cold. It means you're not always immediately available, not always the one reaching out first, not always pouring everything out without allowing anything to be discovered. You keep some things sacred. You let him wonder a little, and in that space of wondering, his attachment begins to grow. Men become emotionally attached to women who make them feel like they are constantly unfolding new layers, not because she's hiding something, but because she is grounded in her own life. She doesn't give all of herself away in the first few conversations. She lets the connection breathe. She's not afraid of pauses or silence. She knows that absence creates longing, and longing deepens emotional connection. The moment everything is laid bare too quickly, the sense of emotional chase disappears. But when a man has to earn access to deeper parts of you over time, when you trust him with your stories layer by layer, he feels honored, chosen, and that makes him miss you more when you're not around. There's also a certain energy in a woman who doesn't always explain herself, who doesn't always answer the phone on the first ring, who's not always available to hang out just because he called last minute. It's not about being difficult, it's about having a life so full and meaningful that you're not rearranging your entire world to fit into his. That sends a message, a powerful one. It says, I'm whole without you, but I welcome your presence. That balance is intoxicating. It's where attraction meets admiration. When a man senses that your world doesn't revolve around him, but you still choose to include him, he feels special. And when he can't have your time on demand, he values it more when he gets it. You become a highlight in his life, not the background noise. He starts to count the days between your conversations. He rereads the messages. He replays the sound of your voice. He notices the quiet, and it starts to echo with the memory of you. That's when the emotional attachment grows. Being mysterious is also about protecting your energy. You don't share every thought, every fear, every detail of your life too soon. You let him discover the layers of your heart at a pace that allows genuine connection to form. You stay in your feminine power, not rushing to prove your worth or secure his affection. That energy is rare and it leaves an impression long after the conversation ends. Mystery doesn't mean being confusing, it means being intriguing. And a woman who lives in her truth, honors her time, sets her boundaries, and carries a deep sense of self-respect becomes unforgettable. She becomes the kind of woman a man thinks about when he's alone, the kind he compares others to, the kind who doesn't need to chase love because she draws it in by simply being. So if you truly want a man to miss you, not just for a moment, but in a way that stirs something deeper inside him, don't be afraid to create space. Let him wonder. Let him reach. Let him feel your absence. Because in that quiet space, he'll start to realize how much your presence meant.